How did one little Black Adam movie that flopped divide the DC fandom? Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. I am Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. You can follow me on X Twitter at Movies TV Mad. And a very warm welcome to Tuesday's edition of the DCU Daily. There's no DCU updates today. I think they did a video of how they're going to make the lanterns fly in the Lantern series. That's that really. But I really want to talk about this because Black Adam is the core reason that there's a divided, broken DC fan base. It's the reason why we're getting these fan bro wars between the Gunn bros and the Snyder bros, right? And I don't mean that in a disrespectful fashion. I'm just describing them in a way that you can understand. I think these fan wars are pathetic, boring, and they really grind down on my mood, but there's nothing I can do to stop them. But you may think it's the Snyderverse, it's what they did with Justice League, it's the way they treated Zack Snyder, you know, the way they pushed him out of Justice League, how some of us had to fight to release the Snyder Cut, all that, you know, Justice League, all that divided the DC fan base. There's no question that was a different divide. This is, you know, because we went into overdrive, right? Because we were all kind of, I suppose, we admitted defeat at the time, right? Before Black Adam came out, we thought, Snyderverse ain't coming back. It's done. You know, we talked about it, we debated it, but it was done. And I think most Snyder fans came to the kind of resolution that it was done. Then they released Black Adam that flopped. I really liked the Black Adam movie as a, you know, a popcorn chomping fun time at the movies. Some people think it's a terrible movie, you know, but I don't. I think it's enjoyable at the very least. It's not, you know, it's not Citizen Kane or anything. It's not The Dark Knight. It's not Joker, as I said in my review at the time. But I personally enjoyed it. They got so many things right with that movie. I really, I really believed it, and I really got a lot out of that movie as a piece of entertainment. So put to one side what happened with Snyder and all of that. The reason there's a divided DC fan base now is because we had a post-credit scene of Henry Cavill's Superman, which actually divided in Black Adam. In Black Adam post-credit scene, we saw Henry Cavill's Superman. It was very, very exciting. It wasn't enough to bring audiences to cinemas to make that film a hit, but a lot of us were excited. But it did, again, divide people because they used their own version of the Superman theme. And, you know, Snyder fans were angry. Why wasn't it the, you know, idea of hope by Hans Zimmer? So there was another kind of piece of negativity. We should have been celebrating that Henry Cavill's Superman was back. So Henry took to Instagram to tell us all he was officially back as Superman. So we were all very excited. It was on the BBC News, it was on the ITV News, it was all over the world, CNN. It was a big deal. We were celebrating, finally, he was going to come back and he was going to be part of this Black Adam universe. So because Henry had the same representatives as Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, you know, they were going to do stuff within the Black Adam side. But for that to happen, you know, you needed a successful Black Adam movie. And that didn't happen. From the moment that didn't happen, Zaslav was all, well, Henry Cavill didn't put butts in seats, right? The guy was only in one post-credit scene, don't forget. But anyway, Zaslav was very reactive over the Cavill post-credit scene. There were lots of plans. He was going to be in the Flash movie, blah-de-blah-de-blah, everything. So then, right, we heard, after that, they announced that James Gunn was going to be the co-CEO of the newly formed DC Studios. Henry Cavill came out and said, I'm looking forward to talking to James Gunn. James Gunn didn't respond on social media. It's then when I thought, there's a bit of a problem. And then I had a phone call. A day before James Gunn came out to speak about his plans for Superman, I actually got a phone call, not an email, not, you know, nothing online. This was a proper, you know, dog and bone phone call from one of my sources. And I was told that Henry Cavill would not be James Gunn's Superman and that he would look to cast a fresh face and that the DCU wouldn't be a total reboot. They would use some things, and some things, they wouldn't use. So I was pretty mystified by this, and I wasn't sure if I believed it. Next day, James Gunn comes out and says he's going to cast his own Superman, blah, that he's spoken to Henry Cavill, and there might be a role in the DCU playing somebody else. He said this about many people he announced he wasn't going to use in the DCU. I thought that was all BS, but we'll see. In this Superman movie, that's really being hidden. So there could be some big surprises. I don't know about that. So this is what happened. This is the reason there's a divide. Because basically they lied to us that Henry was coming back as Superman to try and get our butts in cinematic seats, in movie theatres. The movie flopped because it was banned in China because of one of the actors said. I think it may have been one of the LGBTQ actress who was in it. If you remember her, I forgot her character's name now, but I think she said something that annoyed China. You know what they're like. If it went to China, it wasn't banned in China, I think the movie would have made enough to garner a sequel, which would have caused the Batman 2 kind of problem as well. Because James Gunn's coming into something he doesn't necessarily want, right? So that's done. He's going to cast his own Superman. So officially, they're putting it all on James Gunn. It was his decision. He didn't want Henry Cavill. I'm not sure how much Gunn had to do with anything. They lied. Henry Cavill was never coming back. And the people who were so excited were devastated and knew that we were lied to. And this is the core problem they have at DC Studios right now. Because of the way they treated Henry and Henry's fans and Henry's Superman fans, there's a lot of people that I believe are going to boycott this movie. The question is, will it be enough to harm this movie? Listen, I feel bad for David Cronswell, Rachel Brosnahan, and the whole cast. Nicholas Hoult, and the cast and the crew, by the way. Everyone working on this movie, it's not their fault. But they lied about Henry Cavill coming back. And it really hurt people. You lied to us. You insulted our intelligence. So they tried to rebrand DC with this DCU, and a lot of people are rejecting it. And that's why there's a divide within the DC fandom. The problem also that DC Studios have, predominantly, the people I'm calling shills are not really DC fans. They're not really Superman fans. They're James Gunn fans. So they're not really Superman fans. They're going around, they're ordering the t-shirt, the Kingdom Come t-shirt. Now, we know Superman's going to be a public domain, or kind of the original version of Superman. So they've gone with that Kingdom Come insignia, which, although I like it, to me this is Superman's S-shield, right? I don't want the Kingdom Come insignia to be the main one. And this is what they're doing, because they know the original S-shield will be under public domain, so they're trying to change a few things. Anyway, so the big question now is, how damaging was it lying that Henry was coming back? Because I believe if they didn't bring him back in that post-credit scene and Black Adam just flopped, I don't think there would be this divide. There's always going to be a divide between Snyder fans and the rest of the DC fandom. The people who say Snyder fans are not real DC fans are pathetic. If you like one thing in the DC universe, you're a fan. I like several things within the DC universe, within the live action and animated DC universe. That's the section of the fandom that I come from. And the Snyderverse is part of what I love. But you don't have to like it. And I understand why you didn't like it. Hey. But the fans who are kind of shilling what Gunn's doing are mainly James Gunn fans from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's the problem. Is there enough of them? Well, on its own, on their own, there's not enough of them. But it's all about the general audience now. But the general audience are also very well aware that Henry Cavill was supposed to come back, then he didn't. And how does the general audience see this? That is the mystery here. Don't forget, when he was announced to be coming back, as I said earlier, it was on BBC News, CNN, ITV News. This was a proper bulletin. They had a segment on it. That's how huge it was. There wasn't much fuss made when David Cornswet in the news, not like when Henry was announced to be coming back. When David Cornswet was announced to be playing Superman, I feel bad for David. I really do. I feel bad that they got him wearing that costume. They actually, a fan actually did a version of that costume without the red trunks. And I don't have anything in the argument about red trunks or no red trunks, but I must say, it looks better without the red trunks. I don't understand why the red trunks are so baggy. I think it's because they're worried about his bulge showing. Because this is the PC era we live in, right? If you do that, that costume is always going to show a kind of bulge, right? That's the way it is. But anyway, that is the situation. It's all on the general audience now. Will they come in to watch this film? Well, James Gunn, WB and DC Studios haven't helped with their non-existent marketing campaign. We are under 3 months away from the release of this movie. And as I keep on saying, all we've seen is a teaser trailer, a horrible TV spot of Superman flying badly, and a BTS trailer. I liked the teaser, I liked the BTS trailer, but boys and girls, Superman fans, it's simply not enough. But if you were wondering why there is such a backlash and a divide within the DC fandom, yes, the Snyder stuff before was an issue, but what happened with Black Adam and how they lied about Henry coming back is the reason. And I can't believe that someone who claims to be as intelligent as David Zaslav thought this was going to be a good idea, lying to people that someone was coming back. And I've asked before, was Henry in on it? Did Henry know that he wasn't really coming back? Actors rarely know a lot of what goes on within studio affairs. So it could be safe to say that Henry was was being used as a pawn as much as we were used as pawns to go and see that movie. But you lied to the fans, you insulted our intelligence, and there's people who are not going to see this movie now. It's as simple as that. And no matter what you do, there is no way around it. And this is the way studios conduct themselves today. They lie. They insult the intelligence of their audience, or they insult their audience, like Rachel Zegler did with the build-up and marketing to Snow White. And now they've reversed what they were doing with their live-action adaptations of their animated fairy tales. Thank you, Rachel. You saved the day after all that. But you've got to be thick to think, let's lie about Henry Cavill coming back. Did they know that Gunn was going to be the co-CEO of DC Studios even back then? So I don't actually blame James Gunn for the reversal of the return of Henry Cavill, something that was never going to happen anyway. I believe this was a studio idea. There was nothing to do with James Gunn. I don't believe that James Gunn probably did want his own Superman, and you can understand why. But I don't think that James Gunn has the power at DC or WB to reverse the decision of bringing back Henry Cavill. I think if they didn't lie about him coming back, they got reactive because Black Adam flopped. But that wasn't on Henry. You can't blame Henry for that. Now, Henry doesn't have a rich history of great box office. That has to be said. Some people were critical of the decision to bring him back. Pundits were saying, well, he's not exactly a big draw, is he? But his 2 Superman movies that were released in cinemas, Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice, Man of Steel did 670 million at the global box office, and Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice made around 870 million. So that's not bad, right? But he should be a big box office draw, but I think some of the projects he chooses are ill-conceived. But anyway, he does do well on streaming, and he's a great guy. So we will see the consequences of bringing Henry Cavill back as Superman and then announcing to the world that he wasn't Superman.